Hey everyone, Tekk here. Welcome to Tekk's Tavern. Grab a brew, pull up a chair, and let's do a quick video. This is my latest on my Resto Shaman healing guide on Warlords of Draenor in WoW. And I did a quick video, I don't know, about a month or two ago, just prior to the launch of Warlords of Draenor, basically on kind of the 6.0 patch where they made some of the initial changes. But now that I've reached level 100 and have picked up some gear and whatnot, and as of the date of this video, today is, what is it? Let me look here. It's 12/14, so December 14th, 2014, and as of this video, I think we're on 6.0.3, I believe is the patch. It's the, if you're a shaman, you know the infamous freaking ghost wolf nerf happened like 2 days ago, which I won't get into that whole thing, it's not part of this video. But what I'm going to do real quickly here is just go over some of the basic stuff on my spec of the video, the glyphs I use, what I'm talent-wise I'm spec'd into, and kind of my thoughts on the spells that I use the most often in healing. And then I'll show a little bit of a clip of kind of in a dungeon, me healing a few groups, just pointing out a few little tips maybe that'll help a few people that are kind of just hitting 100 and kind of, you know, learning resto healing. I will say that right now, as of the making of this video, resto shamans are having one of the harder times compared to a lot of the other healing classes. There are other healing classes that have a much easier time right now because they're putting out a lot more throughput on their heals, or have a lot better things like you know, shielded healing, things like that. Whereas resto, you know, a lot of our kind of smart heal stuff, we got hit hardest by that. So it's a little harder overall as a shaman healer right now. But it is doable. I mean, I've healed all the heroics. I've healed in the raid some. So it's doable. It's just, you know, you gotta work for it a little bit. So first of all, let's just go ahead and go in real quickly because it's not a real big mystery on some of this stuff. My glyphs, my three major glyphs that I use, and again, this is all up to debate because some people could have some different feelings on it. Right now I have Glyph of Healing Stream Totem, so that's you know, it helps with having resistance and things like that, so it's not bad. Glyph of Riptide. I know some people use this, some don't. I like to use it. It reduces the initial heal on your Riptide by, what is it, 75%, I guess. So you don't get a really big upfront heal. However, there's no cooldown. So you can sit there and you can just spam it one after another. You can put it on all 5 people in your party, you know, bam, 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 and have a hot running on everybody. Whereas before it would heal a little more, but then you gotta wait, and I didn't like that. I'd rather have it just instant. And then Glyph of Cleansing Waters, which I think is a good glyph overall, because I do a lot of dispelling. I actually have my Purify Spirit on my thumb key of my mouse, so I can just very quickly dispel stuff when it comes up. And then it gives you a free heal for 4% of your health, which, you know, that's right now, what, like a 7,000 heal or something. I mean, it's not that much, but hey, it's free, it's thrown in, whatever. Minor glyphs, you can do whatever you want, although with the recent nerf that I mentioned to what is it? What was it called? It's useless now. Ghostly Speed. I used to have Ghostly Speed. I just went ahead and threw Totemic Encirclement in there for PvP purposes, but it's useless. I use the Glyph of Lake Strider for walking on water, and I like the water look of the chain heal, although I don't use chain heal very much in my rotation, and that's something I'll talk about in a bit. Talents wise, this is where I'm at. There's a lot of different ways, and I've seen a lot of people do things differently. I use Nature's Guardian because I like that when I get a little bit low health, I have something that automatically kicks in to kind of help me. Some people use Astral Shift. If you like a more hands-on thing, you can basically pop it and take 40% less damage for 6 seconds. I think if you do a lot of PvP, I think Astral Shift is probably better. But if you're doing dungeons and stuff, I think maybe Nature's Guardian's a little better. Here at this one, I use Windwalk Totem, just because that helps with, you know, some fights with mobility issues and also in PvP as well. At 45, they all suck, so it doesn't really matter. 60, I know some people like to use Elemental Mastery because that's more, you know, if you'd like to be in control of things, you can give yourself a 30% haste boost for 20 seconds, which is significant, especially if you're playing DPS Elemental build, which is my secondary build here. Ancestral Swiftness, I just use that because it allows me to have an instant sometimes, maybe, of if I really need to get, say, an instant cast off of, like, say, a healing wave. You can, you know, pop this, and boom, you have an instant heal. It's, you know, you could go either way on it. On 75, I use Rushing Streams. It's fairly straightforward. At 90, I've flipped back and forth on different things. I have Elemental Blast right now just because I find myself, now that I've gotten a little better geared in the heroics, I'm not having to heal quite as much non-stop, so I can throw an Elemental Blast in there. And it also, as you can see at the bottom there of the description, it gives you a 1000 spirit buff for 8 seconds, which is really good for mana regen, maybe if you're doing raids or whatever. So you could throw an Elemental Blast and get that buff, and it could be really useful. You know, Primal Elementus is good because you can use the pets and use the abilities on that. Unleashed Fury, not so much. It gives a little bit more of a buff to the Unleashed Life, but whatever. On 100, I've swapped back and forth between High Tide and Cloudburst Totem. I tried Cloudburst Totem for a while, and it's just a little too unpredictable for me, and the numbers are way too low. It's only given, it's distributing 20% of all healing done over a 15-second period, and then distributing that to everybody in your party, which is, I don't know. I guess maybe for raid purposes, I guess maybe if it goes across all raid powers released, all injured allies, so maybe in a raid situation, I guess maybe it would be more useful if you had predictable damage coming up. So if you knew, hey, in, you know, 15 seconds, you know, we're going to take a big hit from this ability, you could throw Cloudburst Totem up on ahead of time, do your healing, and then, you know, bam, you're going to get this big heal that heals everybody, kind of. But I prefer to stick with High Tide, even though High Tide is somewhat counterproductive to me as well, because it helps to bounce to additional people when you heal with Chain Heal. Which I don't really care that much about that to be part of it, to be honest. The main thing that it does is that when you do use it, it doesn't diminish in power with each bounce, and that's where I really use it for. It's because that when I do throw it, at least it doesn't diminish anymore. So again, that's where I'm at after experimenting for a little while. So, you know, like I said, your mileage may vary. As far as buffs and things, a couple things off the bat. Make sure, of course, you have Water Shield at all times. Stat priority. I'll touch on this, but I know one thing is if you go around to the different sites like Noxic and Wowhead and some of the other ones, one thing with Resto Shaman right now is stat priority, depending on where you read it at, it's different from site to site. Obviously, Intellect is number 1, Spirit is number 2, so that's fairly straightforward, although some will say, well, Spirit knows really isn't second. It kind of is. However, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to be like you're going to be looking at two pieces of gear, one with Spirit and one without, and trying to make a decision between the two. That will really rarely happen. I mean, it may happen here and there when you get into some of the higher rating gear where you have one ring that has Spirit and Mastery, and then you have another ring that has, say, Crit and Mastery, and you're looking at the two and saying, oh, well, I'd rather have the Crit than the Spirit. Fine, but I mean, it won't happen a lot. Generally, the way I've been approaching it is I've been going with Intellect, Spirit, and then Mastery is my number 1, and then kind of like Crit and Haste together, kind of after Mastery, and then after that Multi-Strike. Versatility is crap. You don't really need to worry about that. So I've been mainly looking at Mastery. Mastery is good for Resto Shaman because basically it increases the potency of your spells based on the health of your target. So when someone gets low health and you throw a heal on them, your heal is going to get boosted to be stronger than it normally would be. As you can see there on my description, it says it boosts it by up to 62% based on the health of the target. So you'll get some really big heals that'll blast off when someone gets, you know, your tank gets under half health. And that's another thing that a lot of people have to adjust to in Warlords of Draenor, is you're not always keeping people topped off all the time like it was back in Mists of Pandaria. It's okay to let people get down to half health and throw a hot and, you know, kind of heal them up over time. You don't have to be in panic mode all the time. So, but yeah, like I said, I go with Intellect, Spirit, then Mastery, and then I got Crit and Haste kind of together. If I'm choosing between two pieces of gear, I will kind of just look at where my stats are, and if one is really lower than the other, I would go with a Crit right now over a Haste. I like to get my Haste up around about 18% or so if I can, and then just probably, like right now, I feel pretty good about my Haste for the time being, and I would just kind of go with Crit if I had a choice between the two right now. So that's kind of how my stat priority goes. A lot of your gearing, you know, like I said, some stuff you're going to get through your garrison mission, so I highly encourage that, like these 645 boots, the 655 ring. I got those both through garrison missions, so that's something you want to pay attention to for gear as well. Just make sure that when you open the gear, obviously, that you're in the proper loot spec. So, so when you're going into your heals, and before we get to the quick video just showing a few things that I'll kind of annotate at the same time there, a few things is usually when I'm healing somebody, you always want to make sure you have Riptide up on as many people as you can get, because that gives you the tidal waves. So then that will reduce the cast time of your next healing wave, so that when you go to cast healing wave, it will actually have a shorter cast time. So it's real important to just keep putting Riptide on as many people. And like I said, with that glyph, you can see I can just cast it back to back. I can just go back and forth and cast it on everybody in the party as fast as you want to cast it. And it's no mana impact whatsoever. I mean, your mana will regen quicker than you can cast that all day nonstop. It really won't make a difference. You still want to use Healing Stream Totem as much as possible when it's off cooldown. Healing Tide Totem will be kind of your oh crap spell generally in fights, or if you just have a situation where it's not even necessarily an oh crap, it's just everybody's kind of low. You know, you get everybody down to 60%, and you kind of don't. You know, you just want to kind of boost everybody up, and you'll throw Healing Tide Totem to get a boost on everybody. Healing Rain, of course. I will talk about Healing Rain a little bit in the video coming up, but one thing is, I see some healers make a mistake with Healing Rain, is there's a right and a wrong way to use Healing Rain. Whenever possible, you want to position Healing Rain so that it covers up the tank and potentially, like, say, rogues on the back side of the mob, but then extend it as far as you can towards yourself so that you and even ranged DPS can stand within the area. Some people like to just center it right on top of the tank, and you don't want to do that. You want to do it more of like a situation kind of like this right here. That's how you'd want to do it. So then the tank is standing over here in it, the rogue's standing in it, and then you can stand on the edge and take advantage, and smart ranged DPS, they'll be able to stand over into the edge of it, and everybody's getting healed from it. So that's usually how you want to play that. Spirit Link Totem is another kind of oh crap one, especially in raids. If everybody's stacking, it can be really useful in certain situations, kind of like if you remember Garrosh, the old strategy where everybody would stack on top of each other. Spirit Link Totem would be very useful for that. But generally, most of the time, you're going to be throwing Riptide on everybody. You're going to be using Healing Wave in conjunction with Unleash Life on the tank. Just kind of pop it whenever it's up, so every other Healing Wave has the Unleash Life boost to it. Just kind of heal, throw down a Healing Stream Totem, and just keep, you know, Riptide on everybody, Healing Wave. Riptide on everybody, Healing Wave. When it gets a little dicey and you need it quicker, you throw some Healing Surges on people. The other big thing is always make sure you have Earth Shield on the tank at all times and keep refreshing it. So for instance, if I just throw Riptide on the healing dummy here, you'll see it's healing 2600, 2667, and there it critted once, 2667, so we'll just kind of watch it here fade off. Now that's without. So now if I put, and then it crit again there for 5300, so now I put Earth Shield on there, and now heal, you're going to see that it's higher, it's 3200. So that's actually, you know, about 600 more per tick. So that's kind of why it's important to make sure that you have that on your tank at all times. And look there, instead of, what is it, 56, now it's 64 or whatever. So you want to make sure you have Earth Shield on the tank at all times. And if for some reason you're getting a dicey situation and the tank goes down, then put it on the next person that has aggro. I mean, you want to have Earth Shield on there at all times, no matter what the situation. And then of course you got Purify Spirit for cleansing, which works good with the glyph that throws the heal from time to time. So another big thing to mention is Capacitor Totem. Capacitor Totem is a very good thing for healers that a lot of healers don't use. What it does is you can throw it down, it stays for 5 seconds, then it explodes and it will stun all enemies within 8 yards for 5 seconds. That's a healing gain, especially on trash pulls. If you're getting some really dicey trash pulls in a heroic and the tank pulls, you know, 7-8 mobs or something, you can kind of walk up there, throw down Capacitor Totem, kind of back off, and then that gives you an opportunity to catch up because that just stunned all the mobs. You can get some healing rain down, you can get a healing stream totem down, throw another heal, a Riptide, and that allows you to, it helps you to get caught up because basically everything is going to get stunned. It's not as useful on boss fights, but on trash it's definitely something you should have on your hotbar is Capacitor Totem. And then other things like Tremor Totem and Windwalk Totem for certain fights are very useful to have around. Of course, having pets that you can throw out from time to time. Also using Hex smartly, which in the next video I'll show you, you'll see a situation of that, is very useful as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it here, get to the other video, and then I'll kind of throw a couple other tips out in the gameplay so you guys can see it. And hopefully that helps some of you guys kind of make some strides with your Resto Shaman healing. So I'll be back in a second. Alright, here we go. So this is some video I took from earlier from a Grimrail Depot run. Here at the beginning you can kind of see, you know, locate the tank obviously, throw Earth Shield on them, and make sure Water Shield's on myself, and then I'll go ahead and throw a Riptide on the tank as they go into the group pool. So that's kind of your general setup as you go in. This startup here on this first fight kind of went weird because someone threw a table down, but then the tank went right into the fight. So some people started eating. So I don't know, it's kind of goofy. Again here, Healing Rain, you can see how I mentioned prior. I throw it down so that it covers the tank and the melee DPS, but also extends towards me so that I can stand in it, and any ranged DPS can stand up into it as well. These guys screw up here a little bit, and I could have took care of it as well, but they let a mob go over and activate one of those ball things. You can see him over there to the right. Technically, I probably should have turned around and like hexed him or something, so that wouldn't have gone off. But usually DPS is pretty good about doing the stuns and taking care of it. If I'd have put a Capacitor Totem down too, that could have took care of it. But I don't really freak out. I just go ahead and throw Healing Tide Totem down, get a Healing Rain down, and start throwing Riptide on everybody. And that's generally how you cover. You know, just keep throwing Riptides, do healing waves to get people topped off, or Healing Surge if you're feeling nervous, and just kind of go along with the Riptides, and always keeping the Earth Shield up on the tank. On my UI here, I'm using Elv UI, and you can notice over on the left there for the tank who's the Pally, in the bottom left corner of his unit frame, you can see that little green box with a number. That's for the Earthen Shield, and it shows me how many charges is left. So if it gets down to like 1 or it's gone, I hurry up and throw Earthen Shield even in the middle of the fight right back on the tank. So that's something to pay attention to. And again, this is Elv UI. If I didn't say that clearly, it's ELV UI is how my unit frames and whole UI looks this way. So again, here lining up for the next group, we get a little ad there, which I don't really pay much attention to. But I put the tank, I put Earthen Shield on him, Riptide. Now, if you watch here, one thing, this again, I'm putting Healing Rain down, covering it up so it covers them and myself. But there's ad is gonna walk up here. And the tank notices it, I can tell, and everything. You can see the ad coming in. I'm gonna hex this ad. That helps again with healing. So I'm gonna select him, and you're gonna see me hex him real quick before he gets into the fight. And then that's less healing that has to be done because that guy didn't join in. Again, just throwing Healing Rain. You can see the ranged DPS, they're not coming up into the Healing Rain, but in tougher fights, generally smart players will pay attention to that. And again, just putting Riptide on everybody, Healing Rain, using Healing Wave on the tank, Healing Surge again when you feel nervous, and that's pretty much the rotation, and he goes into the next group here. Kind of the same thing, they're jumping around here doing crazy stuff, but basically the same rotation. You know, you hold a Healing Stream Totem, you throw down, you know, whenever you can, as often as possible, and keep everybody with Riptides. I mean, that's going to be kind of how you go through a lot of your trash groups and whatnot, especially in heroics like this one here. And that is pretty much the straightforward, you know, healing rotations is the way I use them. You'll notice that I don't use Healing Stream, healing wave, I guess, that often. It's not very mana efficient. It's a little too slow, and I just generally don't use it. The main time that I use it will be typically just to top people off, possibly, you know, at the end of a fight or something to that effect. Or if it's a real short fight where we're all bunched up, you can kind of spam it maybe 3-4 times or something. It's useful in those kind of situations. But just for general healing, I really don't use it that often. Again, it's mostly Riptide, Healing Wave, Healing Surge, Healing Rain. Using all those kind of in conjunction is what I do most of the time. Healing Tide Totem when you get in a bad situation, and of course, you know, your other main cooldowns as needed. But that's generally it. Again, you're going to see me here. I'm actually use my Gift of the Naru there, I believe, on somebody. And you can see me putting, you know, Riptide again. I'm going through everybody putting Riptide and then throwing some healing waves to get people topped off a little bit. Again, it's not like Miss of Paneria where you got to freak out and get everybody topped off all the time. Somebody can sit at a little bit lower. Here, they've screwed up on the ball thing again. And you can see I'm not really just freaking out. I'm throwing down a Healing Rain. People can sit at 50% health for a second, throw some Riptides. I mean, you don't have to like just freak out and have to top everybody up with a Healing Surge immediately. So, you know, here I'm throwing Riptides on everybody. Same thing. So, but that's generally it. So hopefully that helps some of you guys out. If you have any questions, leave them below. If I missed anything, I apologize, and I'll make some annotations if I need to. But anyway, that is it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time in the tavern.